breaths. Okay. All right, everybody. So today we're going to talk about something that's very close to home for all of us. And I know it can be a little bit of a hard topic, but it's pretty important for around here. So my wife and I almost lost our house 2 years ago to the glass fire, but with a little bit of prevention and mostly a heck of a lot of luck, it's still here. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. How to harden your home against our crazy wildfires in this state. So there's 3 zones of defensible space that we can utilize to help protect our homes against these wildfires. The first zone, or zone 0, is the newest required zone that was passed into law in 2020. They're still figuring out regulations for it, but it's probably the most important spot. So it's our last line of defense. It's the last line before it gets, it's the spot before the house. Anyways, you want to keep your weeds down. You want to put in hardscapes to mitigate any of the fire or embers getting close to your house. It's where you want to keep all your trees trimmed back away from the roof and the chimney and the stovepipes. And by 2023, this will be adopted into California regulation. So definitely something to think about moving forward. The next zone, or zone 2, is the standard of our local ordinances at the moment. It's what Permit Sonoma looks at when they do inspections. So as you can see from this picture, the idea here is to keep space between the trees and the shrubs and the house. When I used to work in fire prevention, we would limit up the trees to 10 feet around the house and 10 feet up. So like if you have a tree just in the yard between this 30 to 100 foot zone, you just limit up your trees to 10 feet. Keep your shrubs, and you just want to create space between all of these vegetation bits. And let's see here, sorry. In this area, it's important to keep it well watered, well maintained, because of the drought we are experiencing. Planting drought resistant plants and California natives can be very helpful. It's more fire resistant and it's definitely more manageable. So things to think about. And the last zone we'll talk about is zone 2. And in this zone, it's important to keep space between those trees and shrubs. So it's really about making sure you don't have ladder fuels that can reach the tops of those trees to create embers that can fly towards your home. So it's really just about keeping that space clean. Any propane tanks or outbuildings need to have 10 foot of bare soil around them. And then 10 foot after that, they really want no vegetation kind of growing around that to keep things from catching fire. So all important stuff to think about. Okay, now we can talk about what you can actually do on your house to help keep embers from sparking. There's so many components to a house, and we'll start with this part because it's a good place to start. It's relatively inexpensive and easy to put fire prevention measures on these parts of the house. So aside from getting a new roof, which can be pretty costly and expensive, you can do things like putting vent guards over your soffits and on the bottoms of the house, up in the gables and all of those things. So 1/8 inch mesh is what they're asking, is what CAL FIRE is recommending now. I've done a few of these vents in Oakmont homes because it was very highly recommended. I don't think it's a standard, because I couldn't find anything in the Oakmont policy that said that it was actually a standard that you had to do it. but it's highly recommended. So I've done quite a few of those in the soffits above the house and at the bottom. So very quick and easy thing to do. The other thing you can do is install gutter guards, which makes it super simple to blow your roof off once or twice a year to keep the leaves down. It's pretty easy and it looks pretty nice too. So there's that. Okay, so dual pane windows are like, we should all have them, but not everybody can afford to install them. So they essentially really help stop breakage during those high heat events. Those single pane windows, they don't have a heck of a lot behind them, so they're prone to breaking. But in conjunction with installing dual pane windows, or if you can't, just having screens, your screens repaired, replaced, so that way you stop the embers from like getting in between that dead space. Super helpful. And then your spark arresters on your chimneys, I mean, we should all have them for our neighbors and for safety, but if, you know, and then in the off season, you can just block those up completely. Don't even have to worry about it. Just all closed up. What am I missing here? Oh, and then weather stripping. Like super simple, very easy to do. It helps to stop the smoke, helps to keep embers out of that dead space in your doors. So like super simple, easy thing to do. And it's a good thing to think about. Okay, this is the last spot to think about, and it's kind of the most important. Decks and fences are what catch fire the most. My mom didn't lose her house in Lake County, but it's because the neighbors were there and they knocked the fence down before it could get to the house. So thank goodness for them. But if you have a fence that like reaches to, that touches your house, you should consider replacing that with composite or metal, just to give you a little bit of extra defensible space at like 5 foot distance. And then decks. I mean, if you can't put in a new deck, or you really like the wood, even just keeping it clean, pressure washing it on a semi-regular basis, treating it, those cracks between all of the those cracks between, they fill up with debris, and it's important to keep those clean. That's where like the leaves and things build up in those cracks, and that's where those embers can spark from. So that's pretty important. And just a leaf blower. You don't even have to like do a heck of a lot. Just go out there periodically and just leaf blow it, and you're done. Okay, so this is where I come in. I can help folks by cleaning out gutters. I sweep roofs, trim trees. I can repair and replace window screens and put the weather stripping on your doors. I can also help folks figure out what products might work best for them. There's so many vents out there. There's Vulcan vents, which are they're essentially like the bulls, the very robust vents. They close up at a certain temperature and they're ridiculously expensive, but if that's something people want to do, you can. But then just installing 1/8" mesh, simple, at least it gives you an extra line of defense. So yeah, those are the things that I can help people with. So if you know people who are looking to harden their homes, have them give me a call, because as you know, I'm the man for the job. And then these are the sources that I used, which I found super useful, and they have a lot of information. So I can send this to people too if you're interested. It's just good to have in a folder somewhere if people are curious. So there you have it, guys.
Yay, awesome, SJ. Well done, and thank you for all the great information. It's very important to all of us. Are there any questions for SJ?
Does anybody know why metal screening would help protect a fire? They used to use it in mining. They put them around their lanterns, and when they'd hit a gas pocket, it actually prevents the flame from passing through the metal mesh.
Good to know.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
The 1/8" mesh from, I had a client in Oakmont, and the reason that they were adamant about getting the 1/8" mesh put on there was that they went to a presentation where somebody poured rice through the 1/4" mesh, and it just like fell on through. And they were saying that that size of rice grain is essentially like what an ember could be. So then they, obviously poured it through the 1/8" mesh, and not much came through. So that's why.
Very cool.
SJ, are you familiar with Chapter 7A, CAL FIRE's Chapter 7A?
No, I only looked at Chapter 13.
7A
That's
will
was
have
the
a list
zones.
of materials for fire prevention.
Perfect. Thank you, Carrie.
Good to
7A,
know, good
I'll write that down.
resources. Awesome, great, thank you very much.